In a crowded marketplace where voices clashed like waves and colors competed for attention, there stood a small, almost forgettable stall. It had no bright banners, no loud seller calling people in. Only one object rested there, leaning quietly against a wooden frame, a mirror. At first glance, it looked ordinary, silvered glass, simple edges, but a handwritten sign beside it made people stop and stare. This mirror does not show your face. It shows your intention. Most passers-by laughed. Some shook their heads and walked away, calling it a clever trick to fool the naive. A few paused longer, curiosity flickering in their eyes, but even they hesitated. After all, people are used to mirrors that flatter, not ones that judge. The mirror's seller, an old man with calm eyes and a voice like still water, never argued and never explained further. He only repeated one thing: look if you dare. Those who did gather the courage had strange reactions. A young man with kind manners looked into the mirror and smiled in surprise. His face appeared brighter, almost glowing, as if lit from within. A woman known for her generosity gasped softly when she saw her reflection softened by light, her wrinkles turning into lines of warmth rather than age. They walked away thoughtful, quieter than before. But there were others. A merchant famous for cheating customers glanced into the mirror and recoiled as if struck. His reflection looked twisted, eyes cold, smile sharp and predatory. He cursed the mirror, called it cursed, and stormed off, refusing to explain what he had seen. Word spread, as such things always do. Soon, rumors wrapped around the mirror like smoke. Some said it was magic. Others whispered it was a test sent by fate. Many decided it was better not to know. The stall remained, patient, waiting. One afternoon, a wealthy man arrived at the market surrounded by attendants. His clothes were expensive, his ring heavy with gems, his steps confident. People knew him well. He was powerful, feared, and admired in equal measure. To the world, he was successful, charitable in public, polite in speech, and respected by officials. Yet behind closed doors, his name was spoken differently: ruthless in business, manipulative in deals, smiling while ruining others. When he saw the crowd near the stall, curiosity sparked. He pushed forward, eyes narrowing at the sign. A mirror that shows intention. He scoffed. Nonsense. The old seller looked at him calmly. It only shows what already exists, he said. The wealthy man laughed, a confident, practiced sound. Then I have nothing to fear. He reached into his purse and paid without bargaining. The mirror was carried to his mansion that very day, wrapped in silk like a treasure. That evening, alone in a grand room filled with polished furniture and golden light, the man dismissed his servants. He placed the mirror upright and stood before it, adjusting his robe, preparing to admire himself as he had done countless times before. For a moment, nothing seemed unusual. Then he truly looked. The face staring back at him was his, yet not his. The eyes were hollow, shadowed by greed. The smile was thin and cruel. Lines etched across the face were not from age, but from lies, betrayal, and silent satisfaction at others' loss. It was not a monster from legend, but something worse, a familiar face stripped of excuses. A scream tore from his throat before he could stop it. He staggered back, heart pounding, breath shallow. This isn't me, he whispered, though the mirror remained silent. He tried again, forcing a smile, straightening his posture, but the reflection did not change. The mirror did not care for performance. Panic turned to rage. In one violent motion, he grabbed a heavy object and smashed the mirror. Glass shattered across the floor, fragments scattering like broken truths. He stood trembling, chest heaving, staring at the ruins as if expecting relief. But relief never came. The image burned into his mind did not fade. No matter how many mirrors he avoided after that, he saw it everywhere, in the eyes of people he had wronged, in the silence after his harsh words, in the unease that followed his victories. He had destroyed the mirror, but the truth had already done its work. Days passed, and people noticed changes. The wealthy man grew restless. His laughter sounded forced, his confidence cracked. Some said he became harsher, trying to drown the memory with power. Others claimed he withdrew, spending long hours alone, haunted by a reflection no one else could see. The old seller eventually left the marketplace. The stall disappeared, as quietly as it had arrived. Some said the mirror had fulfilled its purpose. Others wondered if it would appear again, somewhere else, waiting for new faces and old intentions. And the lesson lingered, unspoken but heavy. The most frightening mirror is not the one that shows wrinkles or age, but the one that reflects who we truly are. You can break glass, silence voices, and hide behind wealth or status, but you cannot shatter truth. Because the real mirror does not hang on a wall. It lives within the heart, watching patiently, waiting for the moment we dare to look. After the mirror was shattered, the mansion did not return to its old silence. Something invisible had moved in, something heavier than broken glass. The wealthy man felt it in the way the rooms echoed when he walked, in how the walls seemed closer at night, as if listening. Sleep abandoned him. Whenever he closed his eyes, the same face rose before him, not the one he showed the world, but the one the mirror had revealed. At first, he tried to drown it in noise. Lavish dinners were arranged, musicians called, laughter forced into the halls. He surrounded himself with flatterers who praised his success and reminded him of his power. Yet even as they spoke, he studied their eyes, suddenly unsure. Was that respect he saw, or fear, gratitude, or calculation? The mirror had planted doubt like a seed, and it grew quickly. One night, in the middle of a celebration, his gaze drifted to a polished silver tray reflecting candlelight. For a brief, cruel second, he thought he saw it again, the hollow eyes, the sharp smile. His hand trembled, wine spilling onto the floor. The music faltered. Guests exchanged confused glances. He laughed it off, blaming exhaustion, but inside, something cracked further. He began to remember things he had long buried. Deals where he had smiled while others lost everything. Promises made only to be broken later. Faces of men who had begged, women who had cried, families ruined by contracts written in his elegant handwriting. He had once called it business. Now the word tasted bitter. The mirror was gone, but its work continued. Days later, he ordered the broken glass removed and burned, as if fire could erase memory. The servants obeyed without question, yet whispers spread. People sensed change before they understood it. The man who once walked with certainty now paused before speaking. The man whose gaze once intimidated now avoided eye contact. In the market, far from the mansion, the old seller was gone, but his words lingered. It only shows what already exists. The wealthy man remembered that sentence clearly. It haunted him more than the reflection itself. For the first time in his life, he wondered if his success was built on something rotten. One morning, he summoned an old associate, a man he had once pushed aside when he was no longer useful. The associate arrived cautiously, surprise evident on his face. They sat across from each other, silence stretching between them like a fragile bridge. "I owe you," the wealthy man said finally. The words felt foreign, heavy. He expected mockery, disbelief, maybe anger. Instead, the man across from him simply nodded, eyes tired but honest. That reaction hurt more than any insult could have. It meant the debt was real, and long overdue. He began with small acts, unsure if they mattered. Debts forgiven, contracts rewritten fairly, workers paid on time, without tricks hidden in fine print. Each decision felt like walking against a strong current. Old habits resisted fiercely, whispering that kindness was weakness, that power must always dominate. Yet something strange happened. With every fair choice, the weight in his chest eased slightly. Not enough to bring peace, but enough to notice. Still, redemption is never simple. Many did not trust him. Why should they? Years of cruelty cannot be erased by sudden generosity. Some assumed it was another strategy, a new mask. Their suspicion stung, but he understood it. The mirror had shown him the truth. Trust, once broken, leaves scars. One evening, he wandered alone through the city, something he had not done in years. Without guards, without luxury. He passed narrow streets and dimly lit homes, places his wealth had never touched except to exploit. He saw children playing with broken toys, women counting coins carefully, men working until their backs bent. These were the people behind the faces he had ignored. At the edge of the market, he stopped. The stall where the mirror had once stood was empty. Just worn stones and dust. He felt a strange pull there, as if the ground itself remembered. For a moment, he closed his eyes and imagined the mirror standing before him again. This time, he did not feel fear. He wondered what it would show now. Not perfection, he knew better than that, but perhaps less darkness. Perhaps a face still flawed, but no longer hiding. The thought scared him more than the first reflection ever had, because it meant change was possible, and change demanded responsibility. Back at the mansion, he ordered the walls repainted. Dark colors replaced with light. Heavy curtains opened to let the sun in. The servants noticed. Some whispered that guilt had softened him. Others believed age had finally caught up. But inside, the battle continued. There were days he failed. Days when anger returned, when old instinct screamed louder than conscience. On those days, the mirror returned in his dreams, unbroken, unforgiving. It did not accuse him. It did not speak. It simply reflected, and that was enough. Years passed. The wealthy man grew older, quieter. His name no longer carried the same fear, though respect slowly replaced it. He funded schools without demanding praise. He helped families he had once harmed, never revealing his identity. He learned, painfully, that good deeds done for recognition were just another kind of deception. One night, near the end of his life, he called for a young boy who worked in his household, a curious child with honest eyes. He gave him a simple object, a small piece of polished metal, smooth and reflective. "What is it?" the boy asked. "A mirror," the man replied softly. "But it's broken," the boy said, noticing the crack. "Yes," the man smiled. "So am I." The boy looked confused, but he held the mirror carefully, as if it mattered. After the wealthy man passed away, people argued about his legacy. Some remembered the harm he had done. Others spoke of the good he brought later in life. The truth lay somewhere in between, complex and uncomfortable. And somewhere, perhaps in another market, another mirror appeared. Quiet, patient, waiting. Because mirrors that show faces are everywhere. But mirrors that show intention appear only when the world needs reminding that truth cannot be destroyed, only delayed.